On today's show, we install the EZABL bed leveling sensor on the CR10. Stick around. Hey, welcome to the show. My name is Richard Cleveland. I'm so glad to have you with me today. What we are doing today is we are installing the EZABL bed leveling sensor on the CR10S. And this comes as a kit. What this is a bed leveling sensor from our good friends over at TH3D They sent this to me a while ago. I just haven't had time to install it. I've been so busy here. This is the direct wire. Okay. So this is the direct wire. They do have another version called the Easy Connect, which comes with its own power supply. What we're going to do with this one is we are going to install it on the CR10, and we are going to draw power from the CR10 box, which is right here. So first and foremost, what we have to do is we have to go in and get the firmware, the new firmware that we need to make sure that this is going to run fairly smooth. So by doing that, we can go online, and that's what we're going to do here is we're going to go and we're going to download the latest firmware from EZABL. Or pardon me, from TH3D Studios. What they've done, Timothy Hoogland over at TH3D Studios, who came up with this and the accompanying electronics. I should go and show you guys the inside of this. It's actually kind of fascinating. There we go. Let me go to the upper camera again. So if we look inside here, you can see that there's a little board. Now this is the EZABL version 2. It already has the sensor connected to the board. On one side is power, on the other side is signal. And then this is going to attach onto the CR10. Now we've already put the bracket in place. We are using the OEM bracket because we still have pretty much an OEM setup on the CR10. The bracket is right here. We've printed it in ABS. The reason that we printed it in ABS is because it's going to hold up a little bit better when you are putting the sensor there, because it is fairly close to the hot end. Now this particular unit that we're looking at is not my own unit. This is the unit that is owned by spool3d.ca. And this is the one that's on the showroom floor. We've done some upgrades to it already, and we've put a mirror on it. We've done the little wheels on the bottom. We've added some feet for better airflow underneath the control box. What else have we done? We've put on some Capricorn tubing, as you can see here, and we've also upgraded the hot end. And you can go to a video which I will link up in that corner. I will link up in the corner in the card, and then you guys can go and check out how we installed the Micro Swiss flexible filament friendly C300 or 300C hot end. But we also get a little piece of wire. With every kit, you're included with this wire, and this wire here is just a 2-conductor wire. There's a black and a red in there with a little bit of sheathing on it. We're going to show you exactly how to connect this today, how to connect it inside the box. Now I want to warn you guys that if you've never done this before, please read all of the instructions, follow this video, go and have a look at TH3D Studios videos. They kind of walk you through some of it as well. And once that is all done, then you guys will be in great shape. So we do have a few things that we're going to have to open up here, starting with the box. Now we've got the box taken apart here. We've unplugged what we need to unplug. We have no power actually going to the box. We flipped it on, flipped it off, just to make sure that there's no residual power. Now we're just going to remove the spool holder really quickly, and that's just going to aid us in being able to turn this over and get to the bottom. So we've done that. Move that out of our way. Now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick this up and just flip it over. And then just use these as a stand to hold it while I get into the bottom. Now there's 5 screws on the bottom, very easy to take out. All you need is a 2.5 millimeter hex wrench. Actually, you need a 2 millimeter. This one's a little too big. Let me just grab one. There we go. We now have a 2 millimeter. Try it. Don't do like I do. Make sure that you've got all of your tools handy. So we're just going to open up the bottom here by taking out 5 screws, because we're going to have to get to this board at some point. So we're going to start by doing this. We're going to do some pre-work while our machine is unzipping the file that we got from TH3D. In that TH3D file, you're going to find a lot of things, and we're going to go through those one by one and show you exactly what they do. Now, according to the directions, you need to do 2 things. First and foremost, you need to run your power into the box. Now, you can see the box here. Maybe I should just go to the overhead. There we go. So you can see the box here. We're just going to put it back up on these little stands so it's easier to get at. What we're looking to do is we're looking to add in a positive and a negative wire. And we've got some room in the back grommet here. So we're just going to take some of this wire and we're going to feed it up through, because there's a little bit of room in that grommet. Not much room for our fingers to get by, mind you, but there's a little bit of room in that grommet. We're going to connect this directly to the board at 12 volts, because everything that I've read says that's what we want to do. I'm just going through the quick installation here. So if you're using the direct wire version, then you will need to connect the module to the 12 or 24 volt power that is on your printer. The top pin is positive and the bottom pin is negative. And that is referring to this little guy, top and bottom pin. So this is where our power is going to come in, and that is where our signal is going to go out. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to take off a little bit of the sheathing so we can expose the wires. I really don't like using those. I should use the right tool. There we go. That's the right tool for the job. There we are. We've exposed a little bit of that wire now. And now we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to take a little bit off each end. Alrighty, so there we are. We got a little bit of a insulation cord in there. We're just going to snip that off. We don't need that. Now we want to make sure that we've got enough room that we can separate these 2 wires so that they go to negative and positive. Now we have a 12 volt unit here. Now Tim doesn't say whether you should connect it to the board or to the power supply, although he says we recommend connecting direct to the power supply. So I lied. He does say directly connect to the power supply. So we're going to open this up a little bit. Get that open. There we go. We're going to get a screwdriver. This one will do just fine. And I don't want to mess with the wiring too much in here, but I know that I have 3. We look down here, I have 3 positives and 3 negatives. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the positive and the negative that are closest to each other, and I am just going to add these wires in. So we've got the positive There's not a lot of room in this case, so you want to be very careful when you're doing this. Just going to get that wire in there. Now, I probably should have taken off a little bit more insulation, but I didn't. Get that wire up underneath there. It just does not want to go in there. Maybe I got to open that up a little bit more. There we go. Open that up. Now, for some reason, we've lost our cable that was in there. I'm just going to grab that back. And we're just going to put that back in there. Underneath. There we go. Now, there's not a lot of room to move around in here, so be very careful when you're doing this, because you don't want to short anything out, because that will be bad. If you short something out, you're in trouble. I'm just going to open up that one a little bit. Get this wire in there. If you're like me and you have big fingers, you can certainly get somebody who's got smaller fingers to help you. Now, that's not doing what I want it to do, so I'm going to twist up that wire a little bit. I'll show you this right as soon as I'm done. This is kind of a pre-step to getting this, this all wired correctly. Okay, so we've got our black wire in. We're just going to tighten that back down. And, well, that kind of slipped out, so that's not what we wanted to do. Definitely. I probably should open that up a little bit more, but oh well. Such is life. Now, Tim's got a really good website. If you guys haven't been around to have a look at his website yet, I've been meaning to do this upgrade for some time, and I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. Okay, so we have our wires are nice and tight in there, and we'll pull that through just a little bit. There we go. Let's put our thing back down. Now, that's all we have to do to the box. So now we can go ahead and put the lid back on. And how this lid goes back on is you want to make sure that this vent is right over top of that escape hole there for the venting of the power supply. All right, so now we're just going to close this up, and then we're going to get back to taking a look at our firmware, which we have open. And then we're going to open it up. I'll show you guys what's in there. All right, so stage one is almost done here. We're just going to finish up by putting these screws in. And once we're done, we will, there we go. Once we're done here, then we'll turn it over and we will start to get some other things hooked up. At this stage of the game, once you've got that wire connected, it's probably a good idea to upload the firmware. And we're going to get into the firmware right away, because what happens is a lot of people don't know how to use the firmware properly, and that's fine. We see that a lot, actually. Firmware is a tricky thing. I always find it to be a very tricky thing. Now I'm going to loosen this one up because this case did not quite sit where it's supposed to. There we go. Let's get a wrench out of there. There we go. There we go. Now that's sitting in there. Sometimes you just got to gently persuade these things. All right, so that's done. Let's flip it over. We're not going to supply power to this yet, okay? But we are going to flip it back over. Let's flip it over the right way so we don't tangle any cords. Get it back on its little stand here. And there we have it, all in one. Now, we'll push that to the side for the moment. Now that we've got our power cord connected to our power supply, it's time to go over and take a look at the zip package that we downloaded from TH3D Studios. So we are just going to go over to our computer once again. All right, so here we are in the computer. You can see we're running Windows, an older version of Windows, but Windows nonetheless. And here you can see there are several files. There's a batch file. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then there's SKU connections, STLs, sensor mount STLs, bed leveling test STL. There's extra programs. If you double click on that, there's a G-code sender, which is something that is a decent little piece of software. There's the firmware, TH3D UF. This is the latest version of the firmware. There's also a version for Mac if you're a Mac user. Here's the sensor mount STLs. You can see we've got the ANET, the CR10, CR10S, Ender 2, TAS5, TM3D Tornado, and they've got ones for Wanhao now. There is SKU corrections, and let's just have a look at these images real quick, and this will tell us what they are. So you can see these are the SKU correction STLs that are available. So there's a couple in there. So now let's go back up one. We'll go back, and we will go back to the Open Firmware Windows. This is a batch file. All you got to do is double click it, just say run, and it's going to come up with a couple of yes, I can run this on this machine. So it's going to run, and we should have open what we need open. In the background, you can see here, I've got the PDF for the EZABL. The instructions are really, really good. Let's just have a quick peek at that. So if you come up here, you can see that there's two different kits. There's the direct wire and the Easy Connect. This is the kit we're working with today, is the direct wire. Then we've got the installation. It tells you about mounting the sensor, and we're going to show you mounting the sensor in just a little bit. Then it talks about the wiring, polarity matters, board will short if wired backwards. So make sure that you wire this correctly. Then there's some end stop notifications if you're using a TiVo Tornado. And then there's connect your end stop to the EZABL module, and we're going to show you how we're going to do that. And that's pretty much it. And then we're going to talk about the firmware, how to use the firmware and how to set it up. All right, so we're going to minimize this. We're going to go back to our file, which for whatever reason did not open. So if it doesn't open, don't worry too much about that. All you want to do is just go here to the TH3D UF, and you're going to scroll down till you see the little Marlin icon right there. TH3D UF. That's what you want to click on. So you want to double click it. It's going to open up your Arduino. And once the Arduino has opened up, now we're using an older computer here, so it's not a huge deal. Let's just expand that a little bit so we can see what's going on. Now, first and foremost, I want to tell you that all the setting changes are made in the configuration H file, okay? So it says there's like a little bit of instructions here. This is based on the latest version of Marlin, you do not have to touch anything here. Where you want to go is you want to go 4 tabs over, and you can see across the top here we have tabs. You want to go to Configuration H. Now, this has a great write-up. It's very easy to understand. It says how to use this firmware, read this. Before you do anything to your printer, please do the due diligence and read this little file. Now we get down to the TH3D configuration. So only uncomment things in one printer section. Okay, if you don't follow this, then you'll get errors, and we don't want to get errors. So we know that this is for the Creality CR10, which is an older version of the Creality, or what is an original Creality. There are some extra things here. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We want to go to the Creality CR10S options. That's where we want to be. We're going to select Arduino Mega 2560 from the Tools board. So up here in Tools, we want to make sure that we have the Arduino Mega or Mega 2560 highlighted with that little dot. And then we want to make sure that our processor is the @Mega 2560. In brackets, you'll see Mega 2560 as well. We're already set up there, so we're good. So in the CR10 options, CR10S options, we're just going to uncomment this section right here. Okay, so we're going to delete those 2 little slashes, and you'll know it's uncommented because the word define along with the little hashtag there says that it turns green and it shows you that it is now enabled. So as we go through this, we are going to see a few extra things that we want to talk about. If you are having issues with your stock CR10S filament sensor, uncomment the below line to disable it in the firmware. We aren't having any issues with ours. Ours works just fine, so we are going to leave it commented. If you want to use a CR10 LCD with the CR10S board, uncomment the following line, then connect the LCD cable to EXP1 on the CR10S board, but rotate it 180 degrees. You'll have to force it in, but it will fit and work. Now, if you also have an easy out, this makes rotating the cable painless since the easy out is not keyed. Now, we're just going to leave this commented out and we'll see what happens. If we have to go back in, we'll go back in. We are not using the easy out sensor, but we are going to enable or define the EZABL enable. So we're going to just delete those 2. This is going to make sure that our EZABL is set up. We don't have to worry about TiVo Tornado, Lulzbot, ANETs, WAN-HOW i3 options. Now, we do want to get into the EZABL advanced settings. That's where we want to go to next, which starts down in line 202. And I know you guys may not be able to see these line numbers, but trust me, it's 202. So we're going to go down, and the first thing that we're going to come to is EZABL points. Now what this is going to do is it's going to do a 4x4 grid when the EZABL is installed in the machine, okay? All right, so now we are moving down. We're going to leave that set to 4. So basically what it's going to do is 12 spots. So let me see, we'll go back to this camera. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then by 4 rows up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So all total, it's 16 points that it is probing on the bed. And that I like because, yes, it takes a little bit longer to do the bed leveling, but it gives you a more accurate representation of what's going on with your bed, okay? Okay, I want you to be sure that you check off or get rid of the 2 slash lines before define CR10 OEM, because we have an OEM mount here. We're not using anything special. We've got no special sort of wires or hot end or anything like that. We're using pretty much a stock setup, and we're using the OEM bracket. So if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to compile the data for upload to your CR10. So right now what we're going to do is we are going to upload this. Now it's going to take a few minutes while it compiles. I pre-compiled it a little bit beforehand. So once it is done, then it's going to upload, and you can see we're compiling Sketch now. It won't take that long, and then we will get back up into compiling it on the CR10. Now we are just running a cable to the CR10's box, just a USB cable, and what that is doing is it is sending the data up to, it is uploading now, and that should change our display. Once it does, we've got a few things left to do yet before we make any changes. So it's uploading, it's almost done. It should only take a minute or two. Once you've done that, it's very easy to get started with this firmware. I can't believe how easy it is to get started with this firmware. We're going to mount the sensor here right away. We're going to make the power connections to our board. Let's just switch to our overhead camera here. All right, so we're going to make the connection to our board, which this is the power connection as we saw in our instructions. Be sure to read those instructions completely all the way through. We know that the top is our plus and the bottom is our minus. So we're going to just grab this. We've got a little bit of power going to this. We are looking, and everything is looking perfect. All right. Let's go back to the info screen. We're going to unplug this so we have no power going to our printer. We're just going to turn on and off, make sure we've done that. We're going to take our tool here, and we're just going to open up that a little bit, and we're going to take the sheathing off of these, just a little bit off each one. I know I'm pretty chintzy with the amount of wire that I use, aren't I? Just me though. Now all we're going to simply do is just do those up and pass it through. We'll get rid of this little guy too as well. We don't need him on there. Get rid of this little guy without trying to nip our wires. There we go. And we're going to open these up, get our little screwdriver that we had wherever we put it. There it is. We're going to open this up. And we want to make sure that we wire this correctly, because if you don't, you're going to cause damage to your machine, and we do not want you to cause damage to your machine. And we're just going to put those wires right inside there. 1 and 2. I'm going to hold that in. And I'm just going to take my screwdriver again, and all I'm going to do is tighten those down. And that's pretty much all there is to it. All right, so we're in there. How well we're in there is a whole nother story, but we're in there. All right, so we've got our wire in there. This section here is going to be going to the wire that we need to go to our end stop. So unfortunately, we are going to need a little bit of wire just to connect that end stop sensor, which is right down. Let's go back to this camera, which is right down here. We're just going to unplug that one. So we've got the EZABL installed in the system now, and we've routed the sensor. We got it set up. We do still have to calibrate the sensor, and we have to calibrate everything here on the bed as well, and we're going to do that in a little bit. But it was a fairly easy installation. Now, I made a few changes in the installation, and I'm going to point those out to you in just a second. The EZABL power cable goes into the EZABL box, which I've put on the back behind the Z motor, and maybe I can get a shot of that. Let me just see. You guys can see the ABL box just down there. There's the EZABL box. Now you're going to see this black wire coming out of it with a connector on the end. What I did was this wire should extend out, or you can cut off the end of the stock wire for that Z end stop, which we have at the front. But what I decided to do was actually take the wire and just put a connector on the end. Now this is empty lead. I can snip that off. It doesn't matter. It's not going to get used. I've heat shrinked everything to make sure that it's working right. I know that I've got power going to my sensor, and I know that my sensor is actually detecting when it hits a solid object. The reason I did that was in case I ever want to go back to stock, or perhaps the store wants to, let's get this out of the way, perhaps the store wants to sell this as a demo unit. We can easily take the EZABL off and put it aside for another project later on. But right now we've got everything installed. So with a little bit of cleanup, you can see here we've got the EZABL on the unit. We've already measured. You should have the tip of your nozzle should be 2 millimeters below the tip of the sensor. Okay, so this should be 2 millimeters higher than the end of your nozzle. And that's all in the documentation. And if you're interested in getting into that documentation, you can actually download it from TH3Dstudios.com. Just go into their EZABL section and just download all the information. Now, when you download the EZABL software, which I'm going to show you right away, it's actually kind of neat. Now that we've got everything hooked up, we're just going to turn it on for the first time. And I'm going to bring this camera forward so you guys can see. Let's see here. There we go. So you guys can see this as it turns on. We've got the proper logo come up. I know it's going to be upside down for you, but we've got the proper logo coming up, and now everything is running, and we should be good. If we check it, we've got temperature on both the bed and the hot end. So everything looks like it's done correctly. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to calibrate that, and we'll show you guys that in another video. Okay, so until we see you next time, remember, if you like this video, subscribe. I've got a mess on my desk again. Subscribe and hit that bell notification, and you'll get notified every time we do a brand new episode here on The First Layer. Now, if you'd like to support the show and you like what you saw today, then by all means, please buy me a coffee. I love coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com. That helps support the show. It helps us to get some of the stuff that we need for the show, extra parts, things like that. Or, just upgrading our cameras, maybe go to 4K one day. Or you can become part of our Patreon group. And right now, for both Patreon and for our Buy Me a Coffee guys, we are doing this brick campaign. You can see the brick with the benchies on the top of it. That is the first of many bricks that will be done and then sent out to all those people who contribute to Buy Me a Coffee and to Patreon. And you can go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thefirstlayer. Now, we should thank our sponsor for this build, and that is, of course, Spool 3D. They let us use their house CR10S, which we've done already some modifications to. And we're going to test this out with the EZABL. We're going to show you how it works after we do a little bit more testing with it. And once we've done that, you know, that'll be great. So remember, if you need filament, you need parts, you need printers, go to spool3d.ca. And if you're in Canada and you've got an order over $140, remember, your shipping's free. So I want to thank Timothy Hoogland from TH3D Studios for sending us this EZABL. We're going to test it now. We're going to run it through its paces. Coming up, I'm going to be painting this guy, which he just got built today. This is the Hulk from Malek's 3 Design, and this is the Infinity War Hulk. I do have some little bit of filling to do on him, but we're going to start painting him real soon. On Friday, I'm not here in the studio. So if you guys want to see me do a show from my home, like we've done a couple of other times, just going to be, you know, pretty impromptu kind of thing, no real scheduled topic for that day, but I'll be there to answer your questions, and we will get to all of them as best we can. And you know what? I'm at home, so we can spend as much time as we want doing a live stream. We're not limited by time. So listen, you guys have yourselves a great day, and remember, the first layer is the foundation for every good print. So make sure that you get it right. Talk to you soon.